came to Manatee County back in the late 89, 90 time frame as a transfer. My husband took a job at Tropicana, and so came to Florida from Huntsville, Alabama. And I have a background in juvenile justice in that area. And when looking for employment, I came across the county here, Manatee County government, and saw some positions relative to human services and related to working with people that were underserved and needed things. And so I applied and started working with the county in 1989. Well, most of all is Manatee County is a unique community. It's very diverse. If you think about, I've worked in Duet at the one-room schoolhouse on a project in conjunction with the school district. I've worked out on the islands with the various mayors and projects that are relative to tourism and to the island to residents. I've worked with residents up in the port area in the northern part of the county where there's a lot of ag-related services and businesses. And I've worked on the Southwest District Plan, which is all the way down at the county line and the airport. So when I think about the distinction of Manatee County, it's a very diverse community. Over the years here, in the last 15, 20 years, Lakewood Ranch has, emerged as one of, if not the largest planned developed community in the country. And so we just have a very diverse group of citizens here in the county. My main tenure with the county has been through management and assisting with public service to all of the citizens. A lot of what I've done has been a really strong advocate and troubleshooter for various issues or problems. Had a lot of different assignments that were associated with taking problems and solving them and creating, a better opportunity for the community and the county to work together. And in the last probably 5 years, have been more in the upper level management, obviously as a department director in a newly created department that dealt directly with neighborhoods, all of our grant management, some of the other unique features of the government, and then recently within the last 4 years as a deputy county administrator, which allowed me a wide variety of work from all the way from the finance area through our utilities, public works department, looking at infrastructure, working with our various departments on efficiencies, and leading up into being the county administrator, where basically my primary focus these last few years have been results driven, less process, more results, and bringing more efficiency and value to the community through those results. Well, initially saying that this is a very unique community, we have to look at all different aspects when we're dealing with a problem. And I think you've seen sort of an outpouring of citizens about how they feel about Manatee County. They love their community. And then there's people that are looking for some changes. And so those are all aspects of what we go through when we do our county budget every year, when we look at different aspects of what's happening in the community. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. We really do delve into cost analysis. Is this something that is needed in the community? I'd have to say probably the most primarily important impact in the last 3 or 4 years has been the growth of population. And that has impacted us greatly in service delivery, both in time and type of service. And community residents that are involved in living here, paying taxes, receiving services, expect to receive their services, and they look for efficiency. So I would say population has been a huge impact on local government, and trying to manage infrastructure and the growth has been, probably the biggest challenge. There's some recent ones I'll start out with, and that is about 5 years ago, we realized in county government there was going to be a pretty large loss of a lot of knowledge and skill. There would be a lot of retirements. We had people that had worked here for a number of years, and so in doing so, I noticed we have a lot of really good young talent here locally, and a lot of kids were leaving this area. They would graduate from high school and they would go off to other colleges, and they wouldn't come back. And we have just a great amount of talent, and of course we really think with 12 different departments with the county, there's a lot of a variety of various professional types of positions that could be had. And so I'm really proud of an effort we started called the Manatee Millennial Movement. It's called M3. We have some absolutely incredibly talented professionals in that younger age group, and we were able to put together a large group of them. They reached out into the community. It wasn't just Manatee County government employees. That was the very unique thing about building relationships with our chambers, building relationships with our colleges. And so we have a group, they still meet regularly. They meet once a month, and they are our younger talent that now has decided to stay here locally, and they work for county government, they work for the private sector here, and we think that Manatee County really led a strong effort, and especially some work that I had did through dealing with those individuals in our neighborhood services department. Along with that, we created an internship program that I'm really, really pleased with, and it's, again, results-based, and I think that's a really important key, that the things that we do have a result, and we're able to determine whether they're types of programs or services to continue, or whether they're too costly, or whether there's a better technological side of them. So we created a results-first internship program, and last year alone we had over 20 summer interns that were here with Manatee County, paid internships, 10-week programs, specific project goals with results. And so we feel many of those talented young people were able to then stay on in this local area and find employment and stay here. And then some were younger students and they end up coming back. So that's really an exciting thing. I've really felt like that's been important to the lifeblood of Manatee County government and locally to our area here. Some other areas that I think are key improvements, again, working on the Southwest Tax Increment Financing District. Back in 2014, we had 2 community redevelopment areas that were created, and with the downturn in the market, the TIF allocations were going down. They took a huge nosedive in just 1 year, going from in one of ours, the South County CRA, from about 1.9 million earning to about 30 million, or excuse me, to about 30,000 in just 1 year, and then even below the property value. And so I worked very hard on trying to take those 2 TIF districts and move them out of our area through the state requirements, and then we created the new Southwest District, larger area, and since then there's been a huge property value tax increase in that area, and we have now a department, redevelopment and economic opportunity, that's been created back in 2014, and they work with all of the businesses in that area. It happens to be our most densely populated area. It's in our urban core, and we're seeing an uptick in the median wage of jobs there, and we hope to see more of that. Another area that I'm super proud of is back in 2008, I was called upon to create an economic development program for Manatee County government. And as you can probably imagine, you hear there's a lot of red tape when it comes to Manatee County or even just local government or state government. And so I was called upon to help create a process that would reduce red tape, save time, try to expedite economic development projects for companies coming locally, add incentives where incentives could best be used to create more jobs in the private sector, and to create a stronger economic position for Manatee County, and I'm very proud that that program is still fully in operation, and we partner with the Bradenton Area Economic Development Corporation and all of the chambers to attract not only national but international business to here to Manatee County. Yeah, biggest challenges is making sure that we are structured in a position where we can sustain our service levels, we can help our citizens receive services, and obviously to address the growth in the community. This area is a very popular area, as you know. I think I might have mentioned, and if not, I'll say that leading up to the years 2016 and 17, Manatee County was growing at a rate of about anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 new residents a year. And in 2017, we grew by over 10,000 residents a year, and that repeated itself in 18 and 19, and we're on track in 20 to continue to grow. With that, there are challenges for the types of financial impacts that makes on providing service levels, roads, water, sewer, public safety, all of the main services that citizens rely on to be safe and be protected. And so those areas of expansion and trying to maintain a lower tax level for residents is always a big challenge, especially in local government. Diversifying your revenue sources. This year, with impacts to COVID-19 to our local budget and to the state budget and even federally, you're going to see a challenge for FY22 as to the various different revenue sources, and it is a balancing act on how to make sure that we can keep progress going. I might mention that there are over 500 current projects in the county's capital improvement plan. These are infrastructure, public safety, parks and amenities type of projects. And so in order for that $740 million plan to be carried out in an efficient way over 5 years, we have to do a lot of juggling of appropriate resources, both on the revenue and expenditure side. So those are always the challenges. The infrastructure sales tax, which was implemented by a voter referendum, not implemented by the county per se, it was a voter referendum, started in 2016, and now those projects are starting to move through the system. Some of the challenges that were created because of that we need to be ready for, and I can give you a couple examples. One is the Lincoln Park Pool, which we just recently broke ground on, a really exciting partnership with the city of Palmetto and CRA there. They're donating $2 million out of their funds to match up with the county's $6.4 million to create that pool. But once the pool gets built and is ready to open, we have to operate and maintain it. And so in order to do that, we have to make sure we're prepared to take on that responsibility and that we have the revenues and the sources to be able to do that. Another exciting project is your East County Library project out in Lakewood Ranch. This was also an infrastructure sales tax project that was on the list for the voter referendum, and we are in the early design phase on that project, and we're expecting that project to come out of the ground in 2023. And when it does, if we don't come out of the ground sooner, we'll have some staffing needs there, some operating needs there. And so with that growth I was talking about, you have that responsibility of making sure that your revenue sources can handle the operating and maintenance. Yeah, you do hear the government needs to be run like a business in a lot of instances, and while there are a lot of elements of especially local government that can be run in business models, and we do look at that with every single step we take when looking at new services and even looking at old services, there are many things under government's responsibility to the public's welfare and safety that can't be run exactly like a business would be run from the standpoint of cheapest, shortest amount of time. And so, again, it's a balance. It's a balance between what is really required for the government to be responsible for, and many times we are saddled with the types of things that business does not want to do because those are things that cannot be run efficiently and there can't be a profit made. And we're certainly here to make sure that we run the community in a way that serves the public, but also is in the most efficient and effective way and the least expensive as possible. In fact, we have looked at that, and I notified the previous board and on November the 2nd of a change that we just conducted in our engineering division of the Public Works Department. Back in early January of this year, we had a group of industry individuals, industry leaders from the building and development side come in and talk to us about some of those types of things where, you know, inspections needed to be done a little bit quicker, our development review was lagging behind, and a lot of that has to do with volume, as we indicated, you know, a lot of growth in volume. Our reports on our residential building permits really have never waned, really just maybe in the March and April timeframe they were down a little bit, but we continue to have building permits coming in that are for residential building. But on the inspection side, we've made some changes, and in that engineering division of Public Works, we've restructured it. We've gone in and we've streamlined some of the divisions so that we could try to reduce the time. We've found where we had areas that we needed a little bit more time, where we tried to pull a few of the responsibilities out of those and move them to other areas so they could just focus on things. An example is stormwater. And we have a fantastic stormwater group led by Tom Gerstenberger there, and they are extremely busy, and so we've tried to help streamline things there so that Tom and his group can get through those stormwater reviews quicker. And then on the engineering side overall, by streamlining some of those processes, we'll definitely be seeing shorter wait times, quicker turnaround on inspections. Hopefully in our development review process, we'll see some reduced times. And so that's one we've dealt with. We always get questions about our Building and Development Services Department. And one of the things that happened here recently was in last year, in 19, there were some statewide changes to regulations with having review times reduced, 180 days for certain types, 120 for other. And so we had to jump into action and make changes there. And our Building and Development Services Department has done a good job of doing that. Can we always make improvements there? We most certainly can. Are we constantly looking for feedback from the industries that we impact? We are. We have a planning task force group that meets monthly that has an opportunity to run various ideas by the building and development industry, and then we also talk to consumers about, you know, what they're seeing. I'd identify another thing that our Building Development Services departments did was video inspections for air conditioning units. You know, really in Florida, that's a really popular, obviously, item, and so you have a lot of turnover in your AC units. And there were some changes made at the state level that then allowed us to do video inspections. And so it reduced the amount of time that it took for our inspectors. Now they can actually have the actual contractor follows a guideline. They do the video themselves while they're at the residence, and they send those to us. And our inspectors have the ability to review numerous ones, and we have made a number of improvements there on time and effort. So those are a few things that recently have transpired.
Sure.
Some recent concerns deal with a lot with regulations. When you hear the word regulations, you know, those sound like rules and things that that we implement. And so we've been approached to make sure that we're really aware of any new types of regulations. Most of the regulations that happen to local government come through state regulations. You might be talking about environmental changes, building development changes. It could even be engineering and utilities types things. But it's important to use appropriate language. I personally have tried to really be very transparent about these things to try to make sure that we are communicating with our board. When I first started as the county administrator in 2019, one of the criticisms of our previous administration was a level of communication with the 7 board members so that they are all informed. So I instituted a process where even when one commissioner asking a question about clarifying a particular issue, let's say it might even be a district issue, but ultimately we see residents emailing or calling all of the commissioners about this issue. Instead of just briefing one commissioner, I instituted a memo process where the department will go through and detail the issue, they'll detail the solution and the current status or any next steps. We put that out to all 7 of the board members, and then that's followed up by our staff. That way, all of my board members that I work for can be as informed as each other. You know, I don't really think it's the best use of the board's time if one commissioner, you know, knows more about a topic than another. It's really, they all are very eager to know all the topics. So in 2018, January or so, our board held a work session and we talked about long-range planning. I've mentioned that we're growing rapidly with having 10,000 or more people coming each year for the past 4 years now. We were asked back in 2018 to start looking at long-range planning. So several of us, as some of our experts in the planning field, really put to work looking at where are the growth patterns. It was easy to see that by looking at all the data for subdivision requests, for right-of-way requests, for road and infrastructure improvements. And so as we looked at all of the data, it started pushing us towards a central area that was located in the State Road 64 and I-75 corridor. And all of our indications for population growth and land use point us towards that is the area that's going to grow the most in the next 25 years. So as we started looking for properties and looking for reasons for why we would want to improve the service delivery times to citizens and to be more efficient, one thing we've always been concerned about in these past 5 to 10 years is that we muster most of our utilities work from our 66th Street station all the way in the west part of the county. But if our growth is moving out east, that means there's at least 45 minutes each day for those teams to get from the 66th Street all the way out to east. And it could be even farther if you're heading to Myakka or you're heading to DeWitt. And so having more of a centralized service area, actually we were able to identify over 88,000 residents that would have an improved response time from 45 minutes down to 15 minutes in a central corridor such as that area that we were looking at. We looked at over 23 different parcels to identify an area that might be most suited. About a year into the process, we became aware that the Sheriff's Department needed to move from their 1-acre fleet facility that's on Florida Boulevard, also in the southwest portion of the county. And so as we started looking for properties, we kept losing out on 5 and 10 and 15-acre parcels. They were being sold, they were going off the market, and prices were starting to rise. And so in looking at that central area, we worked closely with the Sheriff's Office to identify an appropriate place that would also put their services in a central area for response times. And so identifying that central area became efficient for not only the county services, but also for the sheriff's office. And it could also allow us, as we presented to the board, for future opportunities for EMS stations, refueling stations, additional service levels that put us on the east side of I-75. And then anyone that's from this area knows that when there's a storm that comes through or something major happens, you may have a disruption on I-75 where you can't get to the citizens in a timely manner. We have state roads, both 64 and State Road 70, that are very highly traveled. And so this location that we landed on in the central part of the county for the future was a likely location for the best and highest use. Just in closing on that, we had some other criteria. It's not near residential. It is near our Lena Road landfill, and we do have obligations to the landfill. Even if the landfill closes, we have a 50-year obligation to monitor it. And by utilizing this property in the central part, we're able to take a little portion of it and place a transfer station on it, which also can add about $75 million worth of value back into our landfill and extend us by another 6 years. So in essence, we bought another 6 years of being able to utilize our current landfill before we would have to be siting a new landfill, which is a very, very difficult process in and of itself. Well, I think the most important thing for anyone to know about the responsibility of the county administrator is to carry out the directive of the Board of County Commissioners. That may not always be 7 votes in favor, but certainly in this instance, when we brought back the long-range planning of this process, the board voted twice for us to move forward on this particular project. We followed the directive of the board, and due diligence had been part of the process throughout the review of this since January of 18. Each step that we took in reviewing various different properties requires some level of due diligence to determine if it's an appropriate property. And so by doing so, we were basically able to arrive at that location at the particular time in which we did, and the board gave us that directive to proceed. Well, the great thing about local government, especially here in Manatee County, is that the staff are here to serve the citizens. They do that every day. They come in every day. I can mention that today's day 276 of us being involved in a COVID and CARES Act program, and our staff have been so dedicated to making sure that services continue to be delivered, and that's the message. No matter who's in charge of local government, we have a dedicated staff of over 1,800 people in all variety of different roles, and they're here to make sure that Manatee County gets the service that's needed, and that's my message to them, and I've heard loud and clear back from them that that's what they're carrying out. Well, I think that, given my background in history, I would say that I'm pretty attuned to the community at large. And from what I gather, from what I'm hearing and seeing, is that people care about the quality of life here in Manatee County, and change is scary for anyone. And so whenever there's change that they might not have been fully aware might be happening, either in the local government or in any aspect of their lives, it might frighten them. And so I think citizens are expressing their concern about wanting to have a voice. That's the neat thing about Manatee County residents, is they care about each other and they care about their community, and I think that that's what's shown through. And so so for that, I'm glad that folks are able to actually speak about how they'd like to see the community grow and how they'd like to see the community carried out. Well, I have hope. You know, it's tough. It's tough being a county commissioner. You get dealt with a lot of different requirements and different responsibilities and decisions that you have to make. The neat thing about our local county commissioners is they come from all different walks of life, and when they come into this role as a county commissioner, there's really not any training for it, and so it's kind of that they're jumping right in, and so I have every hope that they'll be able to come together, and as they start to see projects come forward, especially in the land use area and other larger decisions, there'll be things that they'll all agree upon, there'll be things that they'll want to discuss, and they'll be able to have open conversation, and so I think we always have hope that that will happen sooner than later. I'm not going to answer that one. Sorry. Well, being involved in the senior leadership and working for the board for the last 2 years, I feel confident that we have done a good job planning along with the board and their visions. And I think that for Manatee County, if I were to say what might be an important step forward would be that everyone takes a few minutes and really has an opportunity to learn and understand where the process is. County government doesn't stop each time there's a new group of people that come in or come or go. Everyone has opinions. We want to say that we listen to all of them, and I think for Manatee County to continue, we have a planning process that we presented that is certainly open for discussion from the new board members, and certainly open from discussion for the community, and for that to continue and for Manatee County to prosper. Services need to move on, and I think that's why we rely so heavily on our annual budget process, and we rely heavily on the 5-year capital improvement planning process. And it's a clear vision for where things can go. Obviously, things can change, they can be adjusted, and that process occurs every Tuesday. There's a board meeting.